Welcome back, friends and family. I'm so happy to see you here today. And I want to discuss with you something that's a little hard to discuss for a lot of people. And it deals with an issue that a lot of us have, and a lot of the people around you have, and you may not even realize it. And it's the feeling of not being good enough. And I want to talk about that today because I struggle with that myself often. And I know a lot of good Christians, a lot of regular people, especially younger adults and teenagers, struggle with the idea that they are not good enough. And I want to break that down and I want to understand why we feel that way and what the truth is. So if you could just stick with me on this ride, we will work our way through this together. So why do we feel like we're not good enough? There's a few general contributors to that feeling. One of those contributors is the environment. What I mean by the environment is the people around you may be telling you you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not athletic enough. Whatever the situation may be, people have been consistently and constantly pressing into your brain that you're not enough. And that can definitely affect the mentality and the self-esteem of an individual. Also, a person's struggles or failures. They feel like they're just not good enough, like they just can't be better. Whether those struggles are in school as a student, if those struggles are in relationships that just never seem to go right. They could be struggles at work where you're constantly being told again, your work's not good enough, or you're being passed up for promotions. It could be that you feel like you should be in a position where you're more financially stable based on your work and you're not, and you blame yourself. And you start to chip away at that self-esteem and that self-confidence. And you start to feel like, well, I'm just never going to be good enough. And you're just going to fester and settle. Another factor in the problem and the issue of not feeling good enough is living by comparison. We live in a society and a world now that is dominated by technology. And social media has obviously exploded and become, the common source of communication and demonstration of one's life. And we all know that we only put our best foot forward and we only show maybe the best things in our lives in our social media because we want to seem like we're doing amazing and everything's good, when in reality, things probably aren't as good as we're making them seem in social media. But to all our friends, and I use the quotes because, there's a lot of people who have friends and followers on social media that they have no idea who they are. But the virtual friends see this best foot forward. They see all these amazing things that you're doing, and they see how you're bragging about what may be a fake lifestyle or maybe a facade that everything's great when everything's not great. And they try to one up that, or they say, why can't I live like that? And people start to doubt themselves because they're living by comparison. Or they may sit around and go, you know what? I'm doing everything right. I'm following the rules. I'm following the laws. I'm following everything. And I struggle daily. And the people who just don't care and do whatever they want and commit crimes and live in the face of society and say, I'm doing what I want, seem to live comfortably and well and seem to be doing, everything that they want to do and enjoy life. And when we start living by comparison and not focusing on ourselves and not focusing on how we fit into this world and how we fit into greater things, that can damage your self-confidence and your self-esteem. So just understand that these are some of the factors. And if you can recognize how some of these factors are contributing to your feeling of not being good enough, maybe you can develop a defense system and combat those feelings and realize what's happening to you and why you're down, why you feel like you're not good enough, why you feel like I'll never make it, why you think I will never have everything I've dreamed of and everything I've envisioned, because even if that's just having a happy, successful life, whatever successful looks like for you at that time, you feel like you could never achieve that. These are some of the reasons that you may feel that way, but these are only some of the reasons you may feel that way. So understand that that's one element, the outside in element, that could be affecting why you feel like you're not good enough. And honestly, the feeling of not being good enough is dangerous. It's very dangerous. It causes rebellion. It causes bitterness. It causes resentment in an outward direction, because you just are so unhappy and you feel like you're never going to be good enough. So you give up, and give up to people can be several different degrees of giving up. And obviously the most tragic and horrific form of giving up is to end the existence that God gave you because you just don't feel like you're enough. And I just want to tell you, anybody who feels that way, anybody who thinks, I just am going to give up because I can never succeed, just hold on. Finish this message. Follow what I'm telling you. Think about it. Pray about it. Open your heart, open your mind to something bigger than the tunnel vision that you have developed on all the negativity. Again, follow this lesson all the way through. Follow this conversation. I'm not even going to call it a lesson. I'm not teaching anybody anything. I'm just talking to you, friend to friend. Okay? The other situation that can cause somebody to not feel good enough, that can cause self-doubt, that can cause damaged self-esteem and damaged self-confidence, is holding yourself overly accountable for the mistakes that you've made. A lot of people think, well, I can never be good enough because of I did this in my past. I did that in my past. I did something so bad that I could never be forgiven. And I did something so bad that there's just no coming back from that. Well, remember, it's already forgiven. In the grand scope of things, it was forgiven before you walked this earth. And it is forgiven continually by those who matter. It may not be forgiven on this earth with the humans around you who want to hold a grudge, who want to be negative. But it has been forgiven by the powers that matter, and it will be forgiven by those of us who also try to walk in the footsteps of a Christian lifestyle. Forgiveness is huge in the principles of Christianity. So no matter how bad you may think it is, or how outlandish or how bad society may have told you it was, understand that you can get past that. It can be forgiven. But the first step to forgiveness is you have to accept forgiveness. You have to begin to forgive yourself and accept the forgiveness that is being offered to you by the environments that are positive, that want to see you grow, that want to see you get past that. But you have to begin the process of forgiving yourself, or you will never be able to accept forgiveness. Understand, I'm human. I made a mistake. I was wrong. You have to admit that you were wrong. You have to admit to the mistake that you had. And the most important thing is to learn from that mistake And that's the very first steps of forgiving yourself and moving forward and not dwelling on the mistakes that you have made. Because nobody in the world can beat you down as bad as you can beat yourself down for mistakes that you made. And they may be mistakes that only you know. They may be things that nobody's ever found out, but you know in your heart. Well, if you know it, then God knows it. And He's forgiven you. So why can't you forgive yourself? Why can't you say, I'm human, I made a mistake, and bounce back from it? Repent for it. Understand. Sit down, have a conversation with God and say, I made a horrible mistake. And I know I did. And I am sorry. And I place it at your feet. And I know you've already forgiven me, but please forgive me again and help me forgive myself. Whether they're actions, whether they're thoughts, whether they are notions, judgments, prejudgments, ideas that may have been put in your head as a young child. Maybe it's hatred, maybe it's anger. You can always move past it, and you can be in a position where you know that you are good enough if you allow yourself to heal and you allow yourself to forgive yourself and to forgive others, because there may be others involved in your situation. You're going to have to learn to forgive them too. That's a Christian quality. Because understand that feeling of not being good enough and the tearing down of your self-confidence and the tearing down of your self-esteem and the tearing down of, you know what, I'm lesser than. You saying, I'm lesser than, I am not as good as anybody else. I'm not as good as that person or this person. Understand, that's a tool of the enemy. That is a way for the enemy to hold on to you. So your mistake was a dip in the pool that is dominated and run by the enemy. Now he wants to pull you in. So those feelings of lack of self-esteem, lack of self-confidence, those feelings of not being good enough is how he gets a stronghold on that foot and starts pulling you into that pool. And you've got to get your strong base. You've got to get your strong foundation and say, wait a minute. Just because I dip my foot in this pool does not mean I'm ready to swim with the sharks. And you can pull your foot out anytime. But that's the tool of the enemy, is he's attacking you. He's pulling you in. Now, understand most likely why he has focused on you or your friends or your family or whoever you may share this with, is because the enemy sees the power in you. The enemy sees the beauty in you. The enemy sees the love in you, in your heart, and that makes you a threat. And the best way to take care of a threat to evil is to suppress it, is to contain it, is to detain it and hold it and destroy it. And the only way that he can do that is from the inside out, by making you feel you are never going to be good enough and convincing you of that. I want you to understand that. He sees God's love, God's strength, God's power, God's beauty deep inside of you. And he wants to shut that down because he knows what you can do if you get on the right path. And he knows how you can shut him down at every angle once you find the way and once you find the light. He knows what's coming. He sees it. And the funny thing is, God can see it. The enemy can see it. But you haven't been able to see it yet. So open yourself up to see what you're capable of, the beauty, the love, the giving, the leadership, the grace. All of these things are inside you, waiting to burst forth and improve this world. And so that's why he's trying to shut you down. I want you to remember always, when you feel like you're not good enough, we're better than not good enough. God made us to be people who learn and explore and create and give and delight and love. He made us full of potential and purpose. He tucked his full wonder inside of us so we could help others find the same God who's helped us and live wonderful lives. You were created for a purpose. You were created in his image. Now, when I look around and I know of all that he's created, there's been a saying with older folks to me, which means much older folks, God don't make no junk. Horrible grammar, I know. But it was been a saying for many years. And if you think about that statement, it's true. Think of all the wonderful things that he's made. He made you in his image. He made you for a purpose. He made you with his grace, with his love, with his power inside of you. You just need to learn to unlock it and release it and fight and push back the negative. Fight and push back the enemy. Fight and push back the thought that you're not good enough. You are a child of God. Whether you have realized it yet or not, whether you have come to him and surrendered to him or not, you are a child of God. You are more than good enough. You are the greatest. You just need to unlock it. Unlock that potential, unlock that love. Because I'll bet many of us who struggle with the am I good enough or I'm not good enough conversation are quick to forgive people around us, maybe for the wrongs that they've done to us. I'm one of those. I'm always quick to forgive. I always recognize that people are people. That was a mistake. Everybody can bounce back from that. I don't anymore hold grudges. I used to be quite the opposite. But as I've continued in my walk with the Lord and my walk on the path towards God's beauty and God's grace, I've learned to shed that anger, and I've learned to shed that ability to hold a grudge to a fault. So now I very quickly forgive because I know I have to forgive, because if I don't forgive, it's more damaging to me than it is to the person I'm not forgiving. It eats away at me, and it also creates that little crack, that little nook of resentment and bitterness that again allows the enemy to creep inside and pry his way in and start the process again. We have to always work against that. And I know the closer I get to my purpose, the closer I get to the glory that God has set forth for me before, the closer I get to where I am meant to be, the greater the attacks are. The more serious and the more aggressive and the more frequent the attacks are to try to keep me from reaching where I've been set and designed to be. Because once I reach that point, I am a soldier for God. I am one of his foot soldiers, bringing his light and his love and his grace to this world and bringing others to know him and to accept him and to love him as I do, and as the people that I know do, and as my church family does. And I just love the feeling as I get closer and closer and closer, and I'm not going to let anything interfere with that. But that all started with many years ago, beginning the healing process from the damage that I had done to myself and to those around me, and beginning the forgiveness process of forgiving myself for the damage that I had done, and allowing and accepting the forgiveness from the powers that matter. We just got to understand that God is always with us. And not only does he not make any junk, he would not have made you to be not good enough. And he would not walk next to you and support you and hold you and prop you up and take you in his arms if you weren't good enough. There's just no such thing. As you walk this world, I want you to know that you are good enough. I want you to understand that you are more than enough. You need to appreciate that. You need to accept that. You need to embrace that power and beauty and grace and love inside of you. You need to embrace it. You need to understand what it is. You will always be good enough. You are more than good enough. You just need to look inward and see, I made a mistake. Or you need to see, maybe the people around me see me as a bright light and they're still living in the darkness and they don't want that light to shine because darkness is what they're comfortable with. So they're going to try to turn that light down. They're going to try to dim it. And the only way they can do that was negativity and harsh words and to reduce your self-esteem and to reduce your self-confidence. And that will make your light dim and dim and dim. Be the brightest light you can be. Be the light of the Lord. Be a light on this earth. Be a lighthouse. Let everybody know where to go. Shine your light through the darkness. But you have to let your light shine. You have to turn up the lamp. And to do that, you have to forgive yourself. You have to accept the fact that you are more than good enough. You are as good as God made you. And God don't make no junk. So please understand, as you struggle with the feeling of not good enough, talk to somebody. Talk to somebody in your church. Talk to somebody who has begun a walk with the Lord. Talk to somebody who has struggled with that and has moved past that and has grown out of that. Talk to somebody who came from the same place you may be so they can help you learn how to walk one step at a time out of that darkness. Because there's nothing so bad that it's just easier to give up. Don't ever give up. We don't give up on you. God will never give up on you. And we don't want you to give up on yourself. I will fight for you. My people will fight for you. My people are the people who seek those who are in need, who seek those who are in pain, who seek those who need the light and the love and the grace of God. My people won't let you give up. God does not want you to give up. When you consider quitting and giving up, you are actually telling God that he's not good enough. Because you are in his image. And that's just not a great place to be. And you will be in the darkness forever. And you will be with the negativity, with the antagonists forever. And nobody wants to be there. We need to break free. You need to break the chains. Consider those feelings of not being good enough and inadequacy and all of those feelings of negativity as the chains of bondage around you, and you need to just break free and walk out of that. Walk out of that darkness. Walk out of that bondage. Walk out of that pain and suffering to the love and the light of and the grace of God. So I want you to know you are good enough. We love you. Find us. I'll be happy to point out to you your greatest attributes. I'll be happy to remind you how amazing you are, because we are all amazing and we all have a purpose and we all have strengths and we all have gifts from God that we need to use. But sometimes we need help finding them, discovering them, learning how to turn them up, make them shine, affect the world, and move forward. Sometimes we need that help. And that's where people like us come in. We've done it. We've been there. We know the struggles. We can help you turn up that light so it may shine outward for all to see, so that you may bring the glory to God and you may bring others to you because they want to be where you are now. They saw where you were. They saw you struggling and they were there with you. And now you've unlocked your potential. You've unlocked your light. You've shined so all the world can see and they say, I want that. Be the example. Be the miracle. Whether you need help or you can do it on your own, always move forward. Be the beauty. Be his hands on this earth. Always be good enough.